Hello guys, and welcome to a tutorial on how to set up an alerting and monitoring tool for Polkadot, Kusama, and any other node built upon Substrate. In this tutorial, I'll be teaching you how to set up Panic for Polkadot, which is SimpliVC's open sourced tool. We have for Polkadot, we also have alerting tools for Cosmos based chains, Oasis, and more to come. But in this video, I'll be showing you how to set up the Panic for Polkadot. We also are running a validator on Polkadot and Kusama titled Simply Staking, so make sure to check them out and nominate to them if you're a nominator on Kusama or Polkadot. But let's go ahead with the tutorial. So first off, we want to install the dependencies. The dependencies are Python, Docker and Docker Compose, and Node.js. Now, apart from that, I'll be also giving you some recommendations to how to make sure that this setup is done securely. So we'll also be using UFW, which is a firewall that can be installed on your VM to ensure that no unauthorized access is allowed to the APIs of your nodes. So let's just go ahead and install the dependencies. Down below, I will have links showing you how to install the dependencies. Once these have been installed, you can start off with the source of information for Panic. Now, what Panic uses is the API that the nodes provide that can be configured through the parameters when you start your node. These are the following as they're detailed in this document here. You've got sentry nodes, which you need to enable archive pruning, which means they will keep all the data of the chain so that Panic can query the information it needs. You've got the WebSocket port, which is 9944, and we're also enabling the WebSocket API for external access. Then for validators, the same thing. However, the WebSocket parameter is called unsafe. Now, it's called unsafe for a reason, because there are some operations that you can do with the API that can disable your validator, for example. You can rotate the session keys, the signing key of your validator is changed, and you end up not signing blocks with your original session key. That means we need to make sure that no unauthorized access is allowed to the validator's API. So with that in mind, we can go ahead and install UFW, which will be used to block unauthorized access to this port 9944. When you install UFW, you just need to do apt-get install UFW, and that will install it. And what we want to do is allow access to certain ports. If we're going to be installing a firewall. Now you can also use your cloud provider's firewall if you're using AWS, Google Cloud. But I'm just assuming you're going to be running this without any third-party firewalls on the provider side, and we'll just install a firewall on the VM itself. You'd want to allow access to port 30333, which is the port which nodes use to sync and to P2P, participate in the P2P transfer of data across the network. So we'll allow that from anyone. We also want to allow, if you're going to be installing Panic on a Substrate node, for example, on the same VM as a node, you want to allow port 9000, because port 9000 is what Panic uses to access its UI. So you need to give external access to port 9000. Now, if you're going to be installing Panic not on the same VM as a node, then you don't need to do this step, and you may skip it. We're going to be allowing the Panic VM to gain access to port 9944. So first of all, you need to get the IP address of your VM, and then you run UFW allow from and the IP of your Panic VM. In this case, we'll use this IP, right, to any port 9944. So this will allow only this IP to gain access to this VM's port 9944. And just click enter, and it's added. Then you need to go ahead and run UFW reload so it reloads the new firewall rules and enables them. And then once again, you just need to run ufw verbose to see the rules in action. Now here you see many more rules than you'll see because I am running multiple things on this VM. You just need to check out this rule, port 30333, port 9000, and port 9944, this one here, which is allowed only from this IP. With that done, you want to go to your Polkadot service, or however you're running your Polkadot node, and enable the WebSocket. So if you're running on a service file, for example, you want to add the WS external parameter, which enables external or unsafe, depending on whether you're in a validator or not, pruning archive, and also the WebSocket port 9944. Now, next up is to install the API server, which what the API server is an intermediary between Panic and the nodes. The nodes API is only queryable using the Polkadot JavaScript package. But for Panic to easily query them, we've also built a Polkadot API server, which is very easy to query, and you can query all the nodes through one instance of this API server. It's found at this Git repository. We want to clone it. You do pip install pipenv, and we'll set up the environment as follows. And then run the setup file. Do you wish to set up the API server? Yes. Insert the port that you'd like the API server to listen on. We'll just keep that default, port 3000. And do you wish to set up the list of nodes? Yes. We'll be giving it our Polkadot or Kusama nodes. We'll give our node a name. We'll just call it Sentry. And we'll give it the WebSocket URL. It generally is ws:// the IP, and the port 9944 at the end. Do you wish to add another node? You can go ahead and add as many nodes as you'd like, but in this case, we'll click no. So that is the Polkadot API server configured. We can now go ahead and run the Docker container of the API server. I ran the following command as I forgot to switch screens, the docker build -t, and then when that is built, we can run the following command to docker run. You can run docker ps-a and make sure that this API server is running. Now, if you want, we can also give it a name. I suggest you give it a name. So after docker run, you can do --name and write Polkadot API server. So that when you run docker ps-a, in the names you have Polkadot API server here. That was the quick setup for the Polkadot API server. And now we'll go ahead and test if this is working. In our guide, we've got a few curl commands which you can use to make sure that the API server is pinging. You've got one, which just pings the API server in general. And then we can also ping a specific node which is configured with the API. So you'd run the second one and you'd add the node's IP here. Let's go ahead and run both of them. You've got one and it results pong. And let's go ahead and run the second one. And instead of the node, we'll give it the node's IP. And you've got pong here. Let's check that. If we give it the wrong IP, 26 for example, an API for WebSocket and the wrong IP needs to be set up before it can be queried. So with that Polkadot API server correctly configured, we can go ahead and set up Panic for Polkadot. At this point, I'll be using the internal GitLab repository, which is still on the develop branch of Panic for Polkadot. But once this video is out, you'll be able to clone the GitHub Panic for Polkadot which can be found at github.com/simplyvc/panic_polkadot, as you can see on the screen now. So you've got panic polkadot. You'll be able to just git clone github.com, as you can see on my screen, on my terminal right here. You do git clone github.com/simplyvc/panic_polkadot. The next thing you need to do is set up the UI. Now, what the UI is a web UI which allows you to configure your nodes and monitoring on it. The repository has certificates which come with it, which are the default certificates, but I assure you that it's not safe to use these certificates, and you should generate your own certificates and include them in the certificates folder as is shown here. Panic for Polkadot source web UI certificates. You want to set up the environment and run the setup of the UI. The UI has a username and login. So you'd want to give it a username. Let's say test. A password. Let's also call it test. The password is hashed, so it's not stored as a plain text. And also a cookie secret. The cookie secret is used to sign the cookie stored in the browser. Once that is done, that is the setup of the UI. And what we can do is run the docker compose command to build and run the UI and some other dependencies. The UI and Panic use Redis for a short-term storage of database in memory, and you've also got Mongo, which is the database used to store more long-term data. In case you have issues, you want to change the Docker Compose version from, in my case, from 3.7 to 3.3, and it will run and build. So as the Docker containers are built, we can go and just describe what is being run here. You've got a Mongo database listening on port 27017, the UI which will be listening on port 9000. So if you want to access the UI, you want to use HTTPS the IP that's Panic is running and port 9000, and you've also got Redis running on port 6379. The Panic for Polkadot comes with it a .env file, which has some environmental variables, which defines what ports these services are running on. So if you want to change them, or if you've got some conflicts in port usage, you want to go in the .env file and change these ports. Once that is done, you want to run docker ps to make sure that all the components are running. At this point, we've got the Polkadot API server, which was run previously. We've got Redis, the UI, and Mongo. So I'll type the IP of our Panic up top on our browser and click enter. At this point, since we're using a default certificate, you'll be getting some errors, but if you click proceed, you'll be able to access the Panic login page. In this case, we use test and test, login, and we've logged in. Once you log in, you'll want to go to the settings page, which is from settings main, and set up the connections to the other containers. The alert channels, you'll want to go through a Telegram bot setup. You can set up your email as well, and you can also set up Twilio calls. You'll also want to enable Mongo, because Panic uses Mongo. The IP where Mongo is hosted, which is the same IP as Panic, which will be this one. The host port is by default that port. Database name, we'll keep it to Panic, and we'll click connect. Connection successful. For Telegram commands, you can use the same bot token and chat ID as you used previously. So Telegram alerts, this is where the Telegram alerts are sent to. And this is what bot and what Telegram channel will be used for sending commands to the alerter. For example, snooze to see the status of the alerter through Telegram. So you'll need to set the bot token and the chat ID here. And also you want to enable Redis at the same, and once again, give the same IP and the host port. And then the API server, we can do the exact same thing. Give the VM IP and port. You want to ping the API and make sure it's connection successful. Then once again, click Save Config. And don't forget to add the alerter name at the top, Save Config. Now what this does, if you go to your Panic Polkadot folder and to the config folder, you can go to user config main, and you'll have all the details you specified in this config file. Now we'll go to the node settings, which is this page here. We add a node, 0, Kusama chain. We'll give it the IP of the sentry and the port where it can connect to. We can test via the API, ping successful, it's correct. It's not a validator. If it was a validator, you will enable this and give it the stash account address for it to be able to monitor for on-chain activity on the validator. You want to monitor the node, you want to use it as a data source, it is an archive node, and it will show up here. You want to save the config. With that done, you want to go to the last settings page, which is the repos page, and add a repository. This won't be here. You want to add Polkadot, paritytech/Polkadot. We need to do this because the alerter actually doesn't start if the configuration file of the repository monitoring is not created. So you want to just connect with repo to make sure it's successful, add repo, and save config. This way you've got a repository which is being monitored, and you will get alerted, or if not alerted, you'll receive a message on Telegram, for example, when a new release comes out for this specific repository. Now, once that is done, we've got all configuration files created and set up. We want to start the actual alerting tool. Right now, we've built the front ends and the API server, and now we just need to run one command which will turn on the alerter and use all the configuration we've set up. You want to copy this to your terminal in the Panic Polkadot folder. As you can see here, it's gonna build and run the alerting container. Then if we swap to the UI, right here, if we go on dashboard, you can see that the node is successfully being monitored. It's up, it's synced. You've got the governance data up here, the validator set size of 400, peers, finalized height update. What was the last time that the finalized height was updated? Finalized height. You got what monitors are running on the alerter. You've got an alert log. Once you get alerts, they'll start showing up here. And preferences, which let you enable and disable the specific alerts that show up. They get sent to Telegram, they get sent to email. There are some which are critical that also get calls. It sends your phone call through Twilio. So that's about it for setting up Panic for Polkadot. I hope you found this tutorial useful. Take a look at Panic, try it out. If you have any feedback, make sure to hit us up on Twitter or on GitHub. Twitter is @simply_VC. GitHub, you can just go in the repository, post an issue, type a comment, whatever you please. We appreciate the feedback that's out there. We've also got a Google form that you can send feedback if you'd like. So that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching.